Hey guys, it's Tori. Welcome back to another video. I was just filming my July TBR and I realized I needed to do an introduction for this vlog. Originally, I was attempting to do a bi-weekly vlog system, but last week I just never really found much motivation to talk to a camera. Plus, I honestly didn't have a ton of new things to say. And then earlier this week, I just didn't really have much drive. So I decided, because I'm actually going on a family reunion trip to a cabin this weekend and we're going to be doing a lot of fun things. I'll have some good reading time, so I figured it was probably a good opportunity to decide instead to just have a vlog dedicated to that. So I'm going to have this introduction so that I can tell you what I'm reading, some updates from the last vlog, and then what I'm going to be bringing with me on this trip. First things first, within the past week and a half I have finished Red Rising by Pierce Brown. In the last vlog I mentioned I was reading it and I did end up really enjoying this a lot. I think I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. I won't go into too much detail because I'll want to discuss this a little bit more in my wrap up, but this was very brutal and intense, but there was a lot about the writing that I liked. There were some definitely kind of not great writing moments for sure, but there was a lot of really interestingly worded things. The approach to this kind of cliche story of the downtrodden rising up in rebellion against their oppressors was done in enough of a unique way while also maintaining the nostalgia that I did really appreciate it overall. Will I continue with this series? I don't know yet. I want to because I'm curious enough to read it. But I have a couple hiccups. I don't know how much I want to spend money on it because I don't think I'll keep them. Which I could just get them for really cheap at a used bookstore or used online and just go from there. That would be fine, but I also am a little bit wary about spending money that I feel like is just kind of being wasted a little bit. Although I guess I could look at it as like renting a movie because it would probably be about the same amount of money that I'm spending on a book that I end up giving away to someone. So I know many of you are probably like, just go to a library, and that also is a possibility. But I struggle with due dates when I'm reading, and I also struggle with the idea of knowing when to go get a book from the library, because obviously you have to be planning to start it pretty much right then. And because I'm not super too much of a mood reader, I can do like challenges and stuff. I do have enough mood reader energy in me that I just really struggle to like immediately know what I want. And I also struggle just mental health and fatigue wise with getting myself to go places sometimes. So it's just easier to just grab books that I already own off my shelf and just go with those. That's why I primarily just read books I own, even though I love libraries and I want to support them so bad. It just doesn't quite mesh with my reading routine very well. So I still may do that, but yeah, I'm just trying to figure that out. I also have a friend who's been reading these and has really enjoyed them, and she's been listening to them on audiobooks, and she kind of wants to get copies for herself, and if she does that, she'd be willing to let me borrow them. So we'll see what ends up happening with that, but it's possible I'll read the rest of this trilogy. I just have to work out the method a little bit, but I did enjoy this overall. I'm glad I read it this month. It also kind of worked semi-well for Ancients-a-thon as far as it has like a lot of references to Roman mythology and culture, as well as some medieval kind of interactions going on. So it was kind of fun for that reason. But either way, like I said, it was a great ride and perfect to just kind of get me back in the reading game a little bit. Moving into everything else. So first of all, I'm going to mention a couple of books that I do not intend to bring on this vacation with me that I have been working on. First of all, of course, we have Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I'm still working my way through this one chapter at a time, and it's still so good. I mean, I just read a couple chapters that are probably my least favorite chapters in the whole book because they are just so angering. There's a character who's doing stupid things and just it makes me so mad. But also the second of those two chapters surprised me this time around because I think I picked up on a few interesting tidbits that I really liked. So yeah, that was really great. But I'm just kind of in for the long haul of finishing off this last 140 pages and just feeling really sad because it's all just downhill from here. So yeah, but I won't be bringing this on my trip with me because I've been highlighting it with multiple highlighters, annotating it, and I just don't think my trip will be conducive to being able to do that. So I'm not going to bring this, but I am still working on it. Then I have Canterbury Tales I've been working on by Geoffrey Chaucer, and I was going to bring this on my trip, but this one I have is a big coffee table size book, and it's just not going to be conducive to my trip. I've decided I was tempted to just bring it just so I could read a couple stories, but then I decided I don't want to be lugging this around. I don't want to be holding it to read at the beach. It's just one that I need to like have something in front of me that I can just lay it on, and that's just not going to be what's going on my trip. So I decided not to bring this, but I am really enjoying this a lot more than I was expecting. The language just draws me right into these stories. I also find that I really like kind of fairy tale-esque legend type stories like this, short stories like this. I honestly haven't read a lot of short story collections in my life, and definitely not a lot of more like contemporary short story collections, but the ones I have read, I just feel like I really enjoy the experience, even if I don't necessarily give them 5 stars, which honestly this one I might, depending on how the rest of it goes for me and how I feel. But for the most part, I don't give them 5 stars or anything, but I just like being able to read shorter stories that kind of wrap up quickly, and when they're well done, they're well done. So anyway, I am enjoying this. We'll be putting a pause on it for a few days while I go on my trip, but it is going well. And then we get into the 3 books I'm bringing to read on my trip. So first of all, we have The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. I am nearing the end. I'm actually further than this suggests because I've listened to a bunch since I last updated in here where I'm at. But if you haven't guessed, I am listening to this on audiobook. I think I might still bring the physical copy so I can follow along in the car. Maybe, we'll see, I don't know, but it kind of depends on how full my bags are once I'm all packed up after this. But I kind of would like to bring this along with me just to be able to follow along, but I think there's a strong chance I'll be able to finish this on this trip. I think I have about 5 hours left in the audiobook on double speed, and it's a 3-hour drive to and from where we're going, so I'll definitely have plenty of time just in the drive alone, which is probably when I'll be listening to it. I don't think I'll be doing it there. I have other priorities there. But I think if not finish this, I'll at least get close and then be able to finish it pretty soon after I get back. So that will be great. As far as my feelings about that book go, they haven't really changed. There's definitely some interesting little subtle things that I've noticed about Cromwell's character that has been really interesting. My tension is building up because I know how this book is going to end, just historically speaking, and I am just trying to look for all the hints at what is coming, and it's just pretty creepy and just tension inducing. So anyway, it's really good. It is a slower one. I'm glad I ended up doing the audiobook. I think it's helped me so much to be able to get through this and still like comprehend what's going on. I think I've mentioned before that I am more of an Audible learner, so I actually sometimes prefer audiobooks for certain books just because it makes it easier for me to comprehend what's going on. Sometimes when I read it visually, depending on the language and stuff, it can make things harder for me to understand. So that's been really helpful with The Mirror and the Light, and I'm honestly excited to be done with this trilogy. I've really loved it, and honestly the writing style has become kind of nostalgic for me. But me, like everybody else, it's a lot of work. It's a tough series to read because the language is so dense and intense. So I'm excited to be done, but I'm also really glad that I've read it, and I would love to reread them someday. I honestly even would be willing to reread The Mirror and the Light. At first I didn't think so, but the further I've gotten, the more I've really appreciated the story it's telling and how it's telling it. So yes, that will be going with me on my trip. Then the other 2 I have here is, first of all, Silas Marner by George Eliot. As of the time of filming this clip, I am not quite, just about 40 pages through through this book, which is just under 200 pages, and I'm really enjoying it a lot. George Eliot's writing, speaking of dense writing, George Eliot's writing is always kind of hard to understand. She has a lot of long sentences, a lot of paragraphs dedicated to philosophy and ideas, and which is great, but it does kind of slow me down. But I'm already in love with these characters. I'm only 40 pages in and I'm just in love with these characters. I think Silas Marner, I'm just fascinated to see what happens with him. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited to get through this. So this is going to be my main priority probably when we're having beach days and stuff, where I can just sit on the side and read and whatnot. And I'm going to try to see if I can finish the entirety on this trip. I think it's very possible because, like I said, it's only like 180 pages, 180 something pages. So definitely very doable, and I'm just really excited to be reading this. I'm just loving it. I just feel like it's been too long since I've read a new Victorian work. I mean, Tess has definitely held me over, but there's just something about reading a brand new Victorian classic that you don't know what's going on, but it ends up being really dramatic. Like this has already started off with so many dramatic things that I just, I'm dead. I love it so much. And there's every chance this could make me cry. So if it does, I hope that I somehow am able to hide it, because I will be surrounded by my entire extended family, which is not small. Well, okay, not my entire extended family, my dad's side, which he's the oldest of 10 siblings and almost all of them are married with kids. So you can imagine there's a lot of us. And I don't need them all to see me crying over this old tiny book. Anyway, but yes, I will be continuing with this. Then because that's so short, I wanted to make sure I had at least something else to physically read if I end up finishing that. And so I decided to bring the 10 Plays by Euripides. Specifically, I just want to read Alcestis out of this. Of course, that would be for Ancients-a-thon. I just haven't read it yet. I intend to before June ends, so if I have a chance on this trip, that would be great. And if I end up having even more time to get through more plays, that's great too. But that's going to be my lowest priority as far as what I'm bringing, but it will just kind of be a filler book for if I'm not in the mood for the other two, or if I finish Silas Marner, like I said, and wanted to read this, or even if I finish, honestly, Mirror in the Light, I could go into this. So yes, that will be my plan with that. And that is everything. That's what I'm bringing with me. That's what's been going on with my reading. So my next clip will probably be some montage footage of the great outdoors and the cabin and probably some family activities. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with how much I videotape other people in my extended family. I don't think they'd mind too much, but I do have, little kids, little cousins that will be around, and I don't want them necessarily in my montages too much. They'll probably show up a little bit, but I'd like to keep the focus off them as much as possible. So I'm definitely going to want to be careful, but I will also want to get some good footage. And so yeah, we'll just go right into that. to be honest, I have just been too tired to wrap up this vlog. I did come back from our vacation a couple days ago. It's Wednesday now, and this is the first week I am full on into my new position at work, which has just been exciting but also kind of exhausting. So I've been struggling to get myself to want to film, plus I just really haven't had time with having to do other things. So anyway, I thought I would wrap this up here. We did end up having a lot of fun. You would have seen obviously the whole montage of our trip with the caves, the lake, just hanging out. It was really great. We had a great view from our cabin. I almost canceled this vlog because I of course did not get any footage of this because I was engaged in the event itself, but my grandma actually got life flighted to a hospital the first day we were there, that first morning right before the caves. So the footage you see of the caves, we were having fun, but there was a little bit of anxiety over what was happening with her. Plus we were out of service too, so we weren't able to like receive any texts or anything while in there. But once we came out, we found out that they were okay and they were actually coming back. My grandpa was saying that he wanted to, well, they were suggesting going home, but my grandma said no, she wanted to stay, and she did great the rest of the time. So it ended up being okay, but it was definitely stressful, and I was like, okay, if this ends up bad, we'll probably not put this vlog up, and I may not be filming for a little bit. But like I said, it ended up okay, so that's why this vlog is still a thing. As far as reading goes, I did not actually read as much as I wanted to. I just ended up kind of enjoying just watching the views and chatting a little bit more than maybe I otherwise would. That being said, I did finish Silas Marner just yesterday actually, so a couple days after the trip, but I still finished it and really loved it. Definitely probably a favorite of the year, and I would rank it pretty high amongst my Victorian reads in general. I just really enjoyed it. It was just so sweet and simple, but it was done really well. It was a sweet, simple story that was done very effectively. The writing was wonderful. It did take me a minute to get into it and get used to it, but I did really enjoy that, and I felt like the same thing happened with Adam Bede when I read that by George Eliot. So it's probably just her writing style. It just usually takes me a few chapters to kind of get in the groove of, but once I'm in it, I really, really enjoy it. I did not quite finish Mirror in the Light either, even though we were driving for long enough that I could have finished it, but I wanted to chat with my mom and she was driving, and many of you know when you're driving somewhere, it's just nice to be able to talk to someone. So I decided to talk to her most of the time and then did listen to a good chunk, and then I finished that actually today, and I really enjoyed that as well. I liked Bring Up the Bodies better because I think this one was pretty slow, but I think at least as of this point, I would say I actually liked it better than Wolf Hall, the first one. So I did enjoy it in the end. It was a good read. I'm glad I read that trilogy. I would probably be willing to revisit it in the future, but if I did, I would read each one of them a lot slower and probably just really take my time with it and probably not binge read it. I would probably separate them out a little bit more, but it was still really great. Like I said, I'm glad I read it. And yeah, that is everything. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below some fun things you've been doing this summer, as I would love to know, as well as if you've read obviously anything I mentioned and your thoughts on it. I hope you're having a great reading week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!